still a lot of spots in front. You can come up. No, we're staying in back. That's all right. First of all, let me welcome you to Tiger Nation. Thank you for coming to Tyson Middle School tonight. On behalf of the Fond du Lac County Drug-Free Communities, of course, we'd like to welcome you to Hidden in Plain Sight, what every adult should know. I'm Officer Steve Olson. I'm the school resource officer here at Tyson. Every day I get to hang out with kids. And the best part, they pay me to do that. So, excellent presentation tonight. The gals that put this together have been working really hard, and I know you're going to find a lot of useful information. Some of the things are goals tonight for you to leave here tonight with. Hopefully, you'll be able to recognize some signs and symptoms of drug use, understand how drugs can lead to high-risk behaviors and addiction, prevention and communication tips, have some knowledge and resources to take that next step in helping your children, students, patients, or clients. Apply the information you learned tonight to your field of work or to your parenting skills. And maybe, just maybe, we might interest you in joining the drug-free communities. We're always looking for volunteers, and we can't do it without volunteers. So, with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker tonight. Please welcome Ann Frittner from SSM, Magnesian Healthcare. She's going to provide you some information on how substance use can affect youth and high-risk behaviors.
Am I on? In adolescents than in adults. For some reason, and they're not sure why yet, but the effects of the alcohol are delayed in the adolescent. So the effects of the alcohol in the adult, such as tiredness or sleepiness when you've had enough to drink, and also the coordination, the motor skills, the talking and walking, that happens much faster in an adult brain than it does in an adolescent brain. And so this allows the adolescents to be able to drink without really feeling intoxicated. So what happens is it allows them to get to their blood alcohol levels at a dangerously high level and puts them at risk for alcohol poisoning, with very little after effect. Alcohol also affects the glutamate in the brain. Again, another chemical that's trying very hard to regulate with all the adolescent hormones going on, constantly changing things. Glutamate is a chemical that helps cells fire off and bind together, which essentially is what makes your memories. Making memories is how adolescents learn. So the glutamate is affected even in the adult brain. That's why if an adult goes out and drinks heavily at night, they can have a hard time remembering what actually went on that night. Okay? In the adolescent brain, it's growing at such a fast rate that even a very small drop in the glutamate can cause learning problems all the way into their 20s. So when you drop that glutamate down, it affects their ability to bind those neurons together. The more neurons fire and bind together, the more solid their memory or their learning is. So again, in the heavy use, it can really affect the learning of a child well into their 20s. So what's the difference with use and abuse and addiction? Addiction is a medical condition, and we're going to take a look at it as if it were any other medical condition that's caused by a lifestyle change, okay? Heart disease is a lifestyle-related health problems. It's related to our life choices. For heart disease, it's our diet and our exercise. Our choices with our biology to to trigger the heart disease or either prevent the heart disease. If we make enough high-risk choices, we reach our trigger level for heart disease. People who have a family history of heart disease have an increased biological risk, meaning they can trigger it with fewer choices, high-risk choices, than somebody who doesn't have that biological history. The same process applies for everyone, even if we do not have a family history. If we make enough high-risk choices about our diet and exercise and smoking, we will eventually reach our trigger level. The same is with addiction. So addiction is really about how much or how often we're drinking. And everyone who uses any addictive substance will become addicted if they use it long enough in large enough quantities. That's what makes it an addictive substance. And it really doesn't matter why you're using it. It doesn't matter if you're drinking or using because you're sad, or if you're drinking and you're using because you're happy. It just matters that you are. So when you start these habits of drinking to self-medicate or to party, and you're not doing the other things that go with it, again, it increases because you're using it longer in larger quantities. The main thing is your body and your biology plus your choices equals the outcome. As you can see here, everybody's got different tolerance levels, everybody's got different trigger levels depending upon how your body is made up and how your family genetics go. So an addictive substance is going to build a tolerance. As you build that tolerance, you get closer to your trigger level. Okay? So if someone starts drinking at the age of 15, the likelihood that they'll build that tolerance and get to that addiction is much higher, in fact about 6 times higher, than if they start drinking at 21. While heart disease is centered in the heart and the blood vessels, mood-altering chemicals are centered in the brain. Is addiction a medical condition? Again, that's often questioned. We've known for years and years and years that it is. But when we look at it like this, it's a little bit easier to see that our choices interact with our biology, which can either prevent or trigger addiction. The fewer we make, the less chance there is. The more we make, the higher the chance there is. How do I know? How do I know which drug they're using? There's a wide array of them out there and pretty accessible for all them to get, okay? It really doesn't matter. I mean, if you really want to know the ins and outs of the drug, you can Google it and look up and have a pretty good idea of it, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is that your child's using. There's good news. Parents are the anti-drug. You are the ones that can make a difference in your child's life. It's been known for many, many years that parents who have a hands-on approach or spend time with their kids are much less likely to start using even tobacco. Different things you can do, again, parenting, get involved. Know what your children's friends like to do and where they like to go. Keep that lines of communication open. Set a good example. Actions are more persuasive than words. I really would like you to take a look at what examples you are setting at home. Again, understanding there's no right or wrong for your family. But if your message is, gosh, I'm coming home to relax, I gotta have a beer. Do you know how often your teens would love to relax? Because life is pretty stressful. And if that's what they're hearing, they think, when I get an adult, here's how I relax. And why can't I do that now? You know? So looking at if we have the parties and the alcohol's always there. How do I party without that? How do I have fun? Those are the examples they're looking for you to give them. Okay. Set the rules and know your children are expected to follow them. Providing clear and concise message about your expectations. Monitor your children's whereabouts. This includes checking cell phones, knowing friends, parents. Check with the other parents as well. It's important that you know what their families and their friends are doing. Because what's okay in one house may not be okay in another. And just being on that same page. And again, it's not that they don't ever go over there, it's that you have that conversation and that communication with them about what's expected of their behavior. I wouldn't touch the screen.
While they're fixing that, might be a good time for me to perform a joke. I'm the MC, you know. When they asked me to be the MC tonight, they said, just be prepared for anything. I said, I don't know, I'm not really good at that. But I have a 6-year-old at home, and he's really into jokes. So are you ready?
Yes.
This is a good one. What did one hat say to the other hat? You wait here, I'll go on. I'll be here all night, folks. Draw a picture at the end of tonight if you stick around.
So, talking about typical adolescent behavior, if there is such a thing. Okay? They are full of mood swings, erratic sleeping patterns, increased demand for privacy. The hard part about it is that they are always changing. Their brain is constantly changing. Their hormones are constantly changing. Their behavior is constantly changing. So how do you know what they're using? Okay, I think we got it. So, some of these changes are everyday changes in your child, and it's hard to tell. But looking for sudden changes, attendance, changes in appearance, defensiveness, change in friends. If that changes and it's concerning to you, and it's lasting, because if there's anything about a teenager is they change. So if it's really kind of stuck in there, that's the time that you really need to kind of open those lines of communication and check out what's going on. Trust yourself as a parent. You know your child better than anyone else. Do not be afraid to get help for your child. Just as if it was a medical condition, you would take your child to the doctor. You know, sometimes you go in and you say, I don't really know what's on with they're doing this, and is there something wrong with them? They'll tell you if they're not. Do the same thing for their mental health. Not only addiction, but depression, all of that. If you don't know, take them in to see a professional so they can help you figure what's going on. Again, if there's nothing there, they won't keep seeing that. They have plenty to see that do have stuff there. But if there is something going on, just as with medical, the sooner you get to it, the easier it is to make any changes that might have to be made. So remember, you are your child's anti-drug. You're it. Family, grandparents, parents, all of them. And you're the one they're going to look to provide their social skills, their emotional needs, their academic needs, and setting that example with much more than words will really help. And that's it. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Ann. Come on, everyone. We're going to make a change here. And while we get ready for our next presenter, I don't have any more jokes off the top of my head. Well, I do, but tonight's not about me. It's about you learning some really cool, hopefully, new information. So our next speaker for you tonight is Lynn Seibel. Lynn is a parent with Company. And she's going to give you some information on her personal story. So, everyone. Really, they said BRMC, it'll be fun. It'll be great. Nothing will go wrong. That's what they promised me. Oh well, we're having fun. Lynn.
And I'm a wife and a mom, and I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me. But as I said, I'm a wife. My husband and I married 26 years, and we have 2 kids. Whew, I'm a little nervous.
Get it, girl!
Woo! Our son is 24, our daughter's 23, and we did all the normal stuff. Helped our kids with homework and Sunday school, confirmation. We ate supper together at the table, and we enjoyed doing that. All the normal stuff. We had 2, the kids have 2 uncles that struggle with drug use and alcoholism. So we were very open and honest with our kids about drugs and alcohol. Trying them once can steal your happiness, can either take your life. And we thought we did it right. We had the death of our parents and their grandparents, and everybody in the house sort of dealt with that grief in their own way, but we got through it together. And we kind of trucked along, pretty much status quo, till Sarah was about a sophomore in high school, and we noticed that school suddenly wasn't quite as important to her as it had been in the past. And some new friends and some she'd had for a long time were gone. And we called it her hormonal roller coaster. All those things that she had on the slide about teenagers, Sarah had them down pat. She was so good at being a teenage girl. And we did. We called it the hormonal roller coaster. And every once in a while on a Friday night, she'd say, "Can I go to a sleepover at so-and-so's house?" And we'd be like, "Yep, go." Because we had no drama for an entire night. Looking back, I feel a little guilty about that, but I think every parent probably does that. It needs that break once in a while. So fast forward a little bit to senior year, and we were about 6 months out from graduation when we were suddenly in crisis mode, and we didn't know if she was going to graduate. School was even less important, and the friends were a little more daring and getting home a little bit later than she should have been, and always, testing everything she could. And we made it with some good counselors at school and a push from them and her parents. She got her diploma, and she was gone. She had graduation party money, and out the door she was, and we thought, well, she's going to find her independence. She'll be back when she's broke, and then she'll get a job, and she won't be lazy anymore. And she was back, and then she was, moving home, and we thought, well, we didn't know you left, but that's okay, so where's it going to work now? And so she found a job, and she lost that. Not a whole lot of understanding of why. And she's still, to this day, pretty good at telling us what we want to hear sometimes instead of telling us the whole story. So there was probably a lot more to that than we realized at the time. And then things started to disappear at home. Money from my wallet, and I thought, where did we go? I don't remember spending it. And my husband, same thing. My husband's wedding ring and promise ring that I got a long time ago was suddenly gone. And then we realized that it wasn't that she was just being lazy, but now she was also being dishonest and stealing. And so, as hard as it was, we had both had enough, and we told her she had to leave, but we weren't going to let her live in our house and be lazy. She was going to be productive, or she was going to go home. Hardest thing we've ever done. Never ever thought I could do it, but we did. And about a month later, please may I come home? I've got a job. Back home she was. We locked everything up and hoped for the best, and it was only about a month. And things were disappearing, and we told her she had to leave again. And this time it was different. It wasn't that hormonal roller coaster that we were used to. It was anger for no real reason, and just a different person. And she got physical with my husband, and I had to call the police. I was very worried that someone was going to get hurt, or worse yet, they would take my husband and my daughter to jail. But they arrested her, and the officer stood in our living room and said, "Do you know what's going on? Do you think she might be using drugs?" And I said, "Gosh, I hope not. She knows better than that, but I'm worried." And she said, "Well, she is in a group in town that we've been watching. She's with, and it's not just anything; it's heroin." And we knew nothing about it. All I knew was that it was bad and that it was illegal. So we called my husband's sister and said, "Come and help us out because we don't know what to do." And we got online and started going to things like Samsung and Dose of Reality, some of the government websites that are really good about drugs. And then we realized how much danger our daughter was in. So forward a little bit, she was home, she stole, she was out, she was home. Another job, she got in trouble at work, she stole from work. She was arrested and she had heroin and paraphernalia in her purse. And so off to jail she went. And as hard as it was for us to realize, we slept that night because that was probably the safest place she'd been in quite a while. And by the time we went to court the next day, we had set up some treatment. And we told her she had two options. She was coming home to pack a bag to go to treatment, or she was going to pack a bag to go somewhere else to live because she wasn't going to take something from us that she went to pawn, that she got money and drugs and overdosed. That wasn't going to come back on us. We weren't going to let that happen. I'd rather out in the street with nowhere to lay her head than be dead. And so that's what we were at. So 28 days of treatment. Rick and I slept like you wouldn't believe. Every night it was awesome. We weren't worried. She called and thanked us for letting her go to treatment. She forgot how mad she was that we didn't give her the choice. So fast forward a little bit, we are celebrating a little better than 2.5 years of clean and sober time. The reason that I'm so fortunate because so many of the parents that I know, either their children are incarcerated or they were in the family. And so we are incredibly lucky to be able to celebrate recovery every day. And every once in a while, because she still lives at home, we have to remind ourselves how very lucky we are. But we're getting there. She's looking forward to an apartment. She's 23 now, and she is still at home, and we're okay with that right now. But we really want her to, spread her wings and start her own life as independent. And she's ready. She's doing well. She's a recovery coach, so she comes to Fond du Lac and she meets people in the emergency room and helps them when they're struggling with drug or alcoholism, as she does one time we were into through a group through Dutch Care for Dutch County. And I lost my train of thought. We're in a good spot right now. The best thing though is to look out and see all of you because I didn't know any of what to look for drug use. We went to a group in Marquezan called Rise Together. It was a presentation much like this, and we had heard about the group, and we heard that they were really good, so we went as a family, my husband and I and my daughter. Went as a group to listen to Rise Together speak, and if you get the opportunity to listen to them, it is a fantastic presentation, very good speakers and from their own experience of drugs and alcohol. And the Green Lake County Sheriff's deputy that works with drugs put this display slide up on the wall in the gymnasium and said, this is what you look for in your home. And I looked up there and thought, all of that was in our daughter's bedroom, and I had no idea at all. So I'm so glad that you're here tonight, because if we had something like this 5 or 6 years ago, maybe we could have prevented it. Maybe we could have missed a felony on her record and some probation time and a lifelong struggle to stay clean and sober. So I'm so glad you're here, and that's our story. So it can happen to anybody. Hopefully, we continue to reduce the stigma, keep talking about it, because everybody knows somebody that struggles with an addiction to something. And it really can affect anyone. So thank you for your time.
I was going to give you some advice, Lynn, but when you were nervous, I've often heard if you get nervous, you should just imagine the crowd in their underwear. I don't know if it works or not, but once again, I want a round of applause for Lynn. It is my absolute pleasure right now. I get to kind of brag upon one of my coworkers, my colleagues, as the script said. They gave me a script tonight. I did. Yesterday, I received a script that said, you must say this. I'm not real good at following scripts, so I'm going to go off the script just a little bit because, Christina, why don't you come up here for a moment? Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you have students at Fondy High? Fondy High? Excellent. Christina is our one of the school resource officers at Fond du Lac High School. And I remember, like it was yesterday, my first day as my role here as a school resource officer here at Tyson. A wonderful lady, Marion Sheridan, said to me these exact words. She said, Christina is right here. She is the epitome of what a school resource officer should be. And I remember thinking to myself, I will be better. Remember that. Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you from watching her do her job day in, day out, the hours she puts in, the amount of care that she gives all of those students there who we refer to as our kids. She truly is the epitome of what a school resource officer should be. So, ladies and gentlemen, Christina Mylon. Lynn's going to come back up front. Christina and Lynn are going to walk you through our room. They're going to point out to you where substances can be hidden and what you should look for. And then I believe Christina is going to talk about current drug trends in Fond du Lac. And finally, you should know I'm not that bad as a school resource officer. I'm kind of like right here, but Christina's right there. So Christina and Lynn are.
Thank you, Steve. So I'm going to try to walk you through this about as quick as we can, just so we can get you guys out of here on time, and we have some more people presenting after us. So some of the things that are kind of red flags that you might see in your child's room, we're going to kind of talk about what they represent, what drugs they could represent, what's more common, what I see or hear about. Parents come in and talk to me often because they just don't know which direction to turn. And sometimes as we talk through things, again, like Lynn said, they realize that there's some red flags there that they never realized until we kind of talk about what is common nowadays or what is seen more often. So kind of messy room, might not want to go in there. One of the number one things I will tell you as a police officer is have control of your child's room. Do not leave it where they are the only person that can go in there, because our hands get tied at a certain point when they maintain control of that room, and we can't come in there, and you can't come in there as a person that can go in and search and do things as a parent in your own home. So First one right here is anytime you see something that is not used maybe correctly, this is a belt. It's tied kind of like a tourniquet. So this is something someone could use if they're injecting something. A belt, that's not uncommon in a room, but sometimes look for things that are used to tie things off. Ropes, belts, things in a particular manner might be a red flag. We have 2 hats here. And I can tell you at Fond du Lac High School, these are very common. And in past years, they were even more common until they realized that I was catching on to this trend. So there is Kush. That is actually a high-grade marijuana name. So a teacher might not realize that, a principal might not realize that, I didn't realize that right away. But if you look closer, and we'll give you guys an opportunity when the presentation's done to come up here and look at things a little closer so you can see what I'm talking about. This is not just camouflage. The black and the camouflage are pot leaves. So until you look really close, you might not realize that. The back, a little more obvious that it's a white pot leaf. One thing about this particular, actually it's this brand, this other hat here, No Bad Ideas. It's a hat brand name. It kind of has like a crown type logo on it. Some of them are very subdued like this, and you wouldn't think anything of it. Some have marijuana leaves on it. Some have marijuana leaves or little marijuana buds on the inside that makes it a little more obvious. One thing this particular brand has is a secret stash compartment, a zipper pouch in here hidden on the inside. So someone, your child could have marijuana in there, they could have pills in there, they could have acid in there, they could have a bunch of things that are going around again in the hat and be wearing it and be searched by you, check pockets, turn them inside out and not realize that typical normal clothing contains stash compartments specifically with the intent of deceiving parents, law enforcement, and hiding things. Do you want to hold up the socks, Lynn? These are socks that Fond du Lac High School student was wearing. Sometimes to be less obvious about things, they wear things in not so obvious places. So socks, these are marijuana leaf socks. Certainly not something that the average teenage student would be wearing unless they're maybe around a population or friends or a group that is using marijuana or getting involved in that lifestyle. Another thing as we move over on the table here, why don't we start down below? Red flag, it's a computer and computer CD cases. Might not look like anything that would be important, but you have to kind of think outside the box when you're a parent. And where would kids hide things? Is it going to be in the jewelry box? Is it going to be in the obvious place, or is it going to be in a place that maybe is not a place a parent is going to look when they're going through the room very quickly just to make sure they don't have something? CD cases can be opened up. If you have any sort of papers in it, you wouldn't even see just by looking at it that there could be something flat in there. Again, like acid, we have 25I. It's a synthetic acid that's been going around, very potent. I will tell you the kids that I've talked to who have tried it said that they were going on a 5-6 hour trip if they were lucky, thought of suicide and killing themselves the entire time. Some of them had to be hospitalized because they were having a constant trip for about a 2-week period, and we didn't know if they'd ever come out of it. So that's something that's picking up. The computer here, you got to think of unorthodox areas where kids can keep things. Maybe the back of a computer and the battery pack. Just kind of any place where it might not be obvious that they could be hiding things. They're not going to have it out in the open, especially if they know that parents are routinely checking their rooms. As we look at the table, pretty typical teenage room. There's probably soda cans, cans all over the place. This particular bottle here, it's a water bottle. You can see it doesn't have a label on it. It certainly doesn't look factory sealed. Always keep an eye out water bottles. The good thing about it is you can open it and smell it. Vodka looks just like water. When you shake vodka sometimes, you don't see the bubbles. It doesn't have the same consistency as water would. Certainly not the first time I've seen someone try to mask alcohol in something. that wouldn't be associated with an alcohol bottle. Same with the grape soda. You can put alcohol in a lot of fruity drinks, and it kind of masks the odor of the alcohol a little more than just an average water bottle. I have seen that. Students certainly have tried to get away with that over the years. It's not terribly common, but it happens. So when we look at the Twisted Tea and the 4, certainly they look very similar to a lot of energy drinks that kids drink. What do you see on the bottle there, Lynn? Does it say anything that would be a tip-off?
On the back it says alcohol facts. This one is half a can, 5% alcohol by volume.
Yep, and the 4 is 12%. So look at the cans very closely that your students or your kids have in their rooms. This Kickstart, that is something we sell at the high school. This is an energy drink, normal, no alcohol involved in it, but looks very similar, has a colored tab just like the White Claw, which is an alcoholic beverage. So they could be manufactured in the same plant, honestly, with how similar they look. So it's very good to pay attention specifically to what you have. Nope. So let's look at this one right here. This is a scale. Sometimes with the cap on, you wouldn't even think it's a scale. Scales are consistent with someone who is either involved in drug dealing, that they're weighing different things out. Some people like to weigh to make sure that someone didn't rip them off with what they have. One easy way to tell is I have not found a used scale that was used for weighing marijuana that still does not have some green shake or residue on it. So that's a really good indicator of what it's being used to weigh. If it's a powder substance, you're probably not going to get all of that off either. They do have cleaners that will clean that off, but a lot of times most kids, they don't clean their room, so they're not going to clean off their scales. These look like ordinary pens and a highlighter. They make a lot of things that look normal so that they're not getting caught with it. This one is actually a pipe inside the highlighter. Students are inventive, kids are inventive. You can take a pen apart, you can put holes in it, you can make it into a makeshift pipe to smoke something with it. So pay attention if there's, maybe a pen laying around that doesn't have the ink in it, that's an indicator right there that's not normal. Over here we have a bunch of incense, certainly covers up odors like the smell of marijuana that could be in a room. We have different types of rolling papers. People use those maybe for rolling cigarettes, but I mean this one is the Rasta wraps. So typically if you have the Jamaican flag or anything Rasta, it's probably not for rolling tobacco products. One thing that I see a lot, I saw it when I was on the road, I see it with students sometimes, is any sort of cigar products like this, the cigarellos. What they'll do is they'll take all the tobacco leaves out of it, and they'll still have the flavor. This one is tropical fusion flavored, and they'll put marijuana in there, and they'll smoke the marijuana in the wrapper of the cigar. Redness relief eye drops. Someone who is drinking, someone who is smoking marijuana will have red eyes, and this is one way to relieve that. So maybe to try to hide the fact that they have been smoking or drinking something they shouldn't have been. And might look like a simple toy of some point or some sort. It's actually a marijuana grinder. If you get marijuana buds that are bigger, you put it in a grinder, turn it around, and it actually takes the buds and kind of makes it into smaller leaves so you can wrap it up and smoke it or fit it into a pipe. Lynn, do you want to hold up the aluminum foil for me? Kids leave dishes in the room all the time, cups. I'm picking them up after my kids all the time too. If you're seeing some like household products that just really shouldn't be in a kid's room, if you're seeing a bunch of aluminum foil laying around, even especially in these type of condition where they're like little squares, this is wax paper. Aluminum foil is really good for holding in things that you don't want to have skin contact with, whether it be heroin, whether it would be, I've seen acid wrapped up in that, because if you have skin contact with that, you're going to have a high. So you want something that is not going to, if you have it in your pocket, all of a sudden you sweat and you're having a trip in an undesirable place where you think you're going to get caught. I see wax paper used a lot for dabs. That is a very potent, I guess, marijuana. Oh, Steve, you're cutting me off so short. Come on. I gotta talk really fast. I can talk fast. Basically what you do is you mix marijuana and butane and under pressure, and then cook it down, and you have this sometimes 94 to 96% potent THC product. And our kids are smoking that. And we have had kids barely functioning, wetting their pants because they are so far out of it, they can't even function, and that's incredibly scary. I would watch out for little Ziploc pouches like this, used for pills, used for pretty much anything drug related. I've seen marijuana residue in here. They make them in all different forms. Listerine contains alcohol. Took this away, not this one, but the exact same bottle or type from a student at the high school. They drink it because there's alcohol in there. You got to think of NyQuil. That has alcohol in it in some products. So maybe picking and choosing which brand names you use and what is in there could help you out, so it's not something you're thinking about. Orange extract, vanilla extract. Look at the ingredients, alcohol in there. Kids will find whatever way they can for a high if they're desperate enough. Hand sanitizer, it's going to make them sick, but I mean, as a teenager, sometimes they'll try it if they heard that you can get a high off of it. Soda cans, pay attention to what they look like, pay attention if there's burnt residue in the inside. This one has holes in it. It's a makeshift pipe. So just pay attention if things look out of the ordinary as to what's in a kid's room. Always look in boxes, jewelry boxes. There's all sorts of different things in here to look out for. Spoons bent in weird conditions, burnt residue in the inside like they're cooking down something. I can tell you, kids even not involved in heroin or other things that you would normally cook down are using it because they will refill different sorts of vapes now with almost anything you can cook down in a spoon. I actually had contact with a kid today that was doing that exact same thing. This might look like something you would find in a girl's makeup bag. It's a container. A lot of times I'll see them in those EOS chapstick containers or any sort of rubber containers. It looks like something, again, that would be in a makeup bag. And they can put different substances in here. I see that a lot with those dabs, which are, it's like a waxy substance. Looks kind of like earwax, but it's like an orangish brown color in a lot of cases. Very, very potent smelling. Cotton balls in places they shouldn't be. If someone is melting something down in a spoon, liquefying it, and wants to inject it, you want to get all the impurities out of it. So you use the cotton ball as a way to purify what's in there. Certainly, you know, the obvious kids might not even think about lighters. That can be used for a whole different, a whole mess of different things. Certainly check out everything. You wouldn't think about a normal Red Bull can, but you can buy all over the place different things that are actually hidden compartments. So this I can tell because it just doesn't feel right when you pick it up. It doesn't feel like it's full, doesn't feel like it's empty, it feels kind of hollowed out, which it is. So there's a lot of ordinary products. I've seen them in a lot of different things, but particularly beverage items, which will be used as like a stash compartment for things. If you're seeing a lot of air fresheners, thanks to mask smells, that would be something that would be kind of a red flag as well. I know teenage bedrooms stink, but it could be concerning. This is what I used to see when I started at the high school 5 years ago, was a lot of glass pipes like this, used for smoking marijuana. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing a lot more of is just different sorts of vapes, and a lot of times with the dabs in particular, they'll use a clothespin, they'll use a back of an earring, and they'll get some of that marijuana wax put it in the mouthpiece and smoke that way with it. So it's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about lighting something. You can smoke something real quick and move on with it. So don't assume just because someone has any kind of vape that they're just using it to smoke vape juices. This is kind of the new, do you want to show this off? Kind of the new upcoming trends, and that's Juuls. And that's what I had a student refilling today, is these Juul packs. They look kind of like a USB drive, or maybe like a pencil lead pouch or a container. But if you see any of this, the green one is actually the cap that goes on the Juul. The Juul refill pack is on the left there, and then this is the full Juul that looks like the USB. I usually can tell kids are smoking them around the high school because they'll make this motion, or you'll see the puff of smoke. But people are overdosing on these because you can smoke so fast, and they make them in sweet flavors. It's like mango and things that are, I would say, almost geared towards kids. Watch things like Altoids containers make a really good, really, Steve? Pouch for carrying and storing things in. You can have all sorts of different pipes and things to smoke out of that would certainly draw attention. Watch out for toilet paper rolls with maybe dryer sheets in them, because if someone's smoking in their room and doesn't want mom and dad to smell the very smelly marijuana, dryer sheet, they can blow the smoke into here and it'll mask a lot of the odor. So certain things that just don't look quite right, there's probably a reason for it. Google is a very good friend nowadays, a dryer sheet and toilet paper roll. This is something I took off a student. If anyone's drug testing your kid, it is urine and it is a hand warmer to warm up the urine. It happens, you guys. And, oh, one last one here. Steve, don't tell me to stop, Steve. So right back here, 710 oil and 420. 420, most people know marijuana associated with that. The day 420, I dislike it for a lot of reasons, but we always have a student high at school just because they can't help themselves on 420. It's kind of the day associated with marijuana use. 710, that is, or oil, they reverse each other, so you'll see a lot of things that say oil on it, or 710, it's like for hash oil, marijuana waxes, it's associated with that community, so July 10th is the same for people who are using hash oil or dabs, the same as 420 as for people who smoke marijuana. So Steve is cutting me off. I think I got to most of it. Feel free to come up later and I'll help talk you through some of this stuff if you guys have questions, okay?
I don't always get a chance to tell her what to do, so in that moment when they gave me the cards, this is part of the MC's role, to keep things on time. And I want to point out that all of our speakers tonight were perfectly on time, except our exceptional SRO, Officer Minon. Finally tonight, I want to introduce to you someone who always gets lots of attention because he has 4 legs, not 2. Likes to slobber and get hair, which is something I don't particularly appreciate, so I'm going to go that way. If you can keep a secret, I'm afraid of dogs. It's true. 46 years old, I was bit in the face when I was 6 years old by a man-eating white poodle. True story. Has kind of freaked me out my whole life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Deputy Justin Weisbecker with the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office. He's going to walk you through the room with his canine partner, Coda. Do you need the microphone, Justin? All right, I'm going this way.
Hello, everybody. My name is Justin Weisbecker. I'm a second shift deputy with the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office. Coda. Coda is a 3-year-old German Shepherd. He's actually from the Czech Republic. I've had him for about a year and a half, and we've been extremely busy in the Fond du Lac. So, Fond du Lac County, working for the Sheriff's Office, allows me to work with a lot of different agencies. I spend a lot of time working with the city guys, because a lot of the second shift guys that we have that work in the city police department really like finding drugs and arresting people and using it and selling it. So I pretty much on a nightly basis am working with the city guys. I also work a lot with Waupun. I work with Waupun Police Department. There's half of the city is in Fauquier County, half of it's in Dodge, so I work on there quite a bit. I also do, my main focus when I go to work every day is interdiction. So I'm the guy out there, how many of you have seen a sheriff canine car? That's me. My job, 90% of it, if I'm not responding to calls, is I'm out looking for drugs. The way I do that is I make traffic stops for legitimate reasons, headlights out, speeding, registration, no seatbelt, stuff like that. And it's my job to come up with, be able to articulate whether I feel there's drugs inside the car or not. If I believe that there may be drugs inside the car, then I get my friend out here, and he does what's called an exterior sniff of the vehicle. The cool thing about the law, the way it is right now, is if Coda goes and walks around the car, it's not considered a search, so I don't have to worry about violating anybody's amendment rights, because Coda is actually sniffing the air outside of the vehicle. Well, that air is free air, nobody owns it, right? So, and what he does is he alerts me to the presence of narcotics. There's two different types of ways that dogs can tell us how they smell or where they smell drugs. Coda is what's called a passive alert dog. So I'll demonstrate that for you just in a second. What he does when he's trained, is he sits. Pretty simple, right? It's my job to understand the difference.
Good evening, Tyson parents and staff. We appreciate you coming out tonight for our parent-teacher conferences. We hope you had a great experience, but it is time for us to start wrapping up our conferences. We hope you have a great night and a safe drive home.
So Coda will sit. It's my job to be able to read my dog. How many of you have pets at home? Okay, how many of you have dogs or cats? How many of your pets do really weird things? Okay, how many of your pets do really weird things on a regular basis? All right, so we're all on the same page. So what I see from Coda when we're doing a narcotic search is behavioral change. The cool thing about him is right before he sits, when he finds drugs, is he wiggles his butt. And he sits down and his tail keeps moving. I don't know if you'll be able to see that up here or not, but I've spent a lot of time with him. Like I said, we do a lot of work. We're really busy, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we see all different types of drugs here in Fond du Lac. So the heroin, the cocaine, the meth, the ecstasy, the acid, the marijuana, the shrooms, you name it, we found it. I've deployed Coda about 200 times in the last year and a half. That's pretty crazy. I think we're at 136 deployments just in 2018 alone. I don't work every day, obviously. I'm still responsible for taking calls, or if there's domestic or something like that, I have to respond. So I'm not always doing it. But we are extremely busy, and unfortunately, we do find a lot of drugs, a lot of the dangerous stuff. I wish I could say I have a feeling that it's going to get better, but I don't, because meth is starting to work its way across the state. I don't know any of you, but if you're familiar with meth, it's a really nasty drug, and I have a feeling that's going to hit here pretty soon. It's going to be pretty bad. So, the more people that we can get volunteering for agencies like this and groups like this, the better, because it can open up the eyes for people. I think we're just doing that. So yeah, what I'm going to do, I hid 25 grams of marijuana up here. 25 grams is a decent amount of marijuana that you can find for personal use. It's definitely an amount that kids could have. And what I did is I hid it in a container that's a false container. I'll show that to you in just a second. So Coda is, all my commands with Coda are in Czech. He's from the Czech Republic. He learned commands when he was there. It's not because I can tell him to bite you in Czech and you don't understand that. That's not true. If he's going to bite you, he's going to bite you because I told him to. He listens to me. I'm his boss. Wherever I go, he goes. Whatever I do, he's always at my side or like obsessed with it. That's just the way he is. It's super cool. This is his world. Either this or a tennis ball. Wherever this goes, that's Coach's focus. It always goes to the Kong. The Kong I use for a lot of different things. Sit. So my job is to get him excited because he's working for this. This is his toy. He doesn't get treats. He doesn't get, I don't give him rawhides or anything like that. This is his world. This is his treat. So I'm going to give him a command and check. It's called, it's just me saying souk. Souk and check means search. That's my word for Coda, go find the drugs. When he finds the drugs, what he'll do is he'll stop, he'll sniff, he'll wiggle his butt a little bit, and then he'll sit down and his tail will still roll. Do that. Ready? See the little butt wiggle? Alright. So, like Christina showed you guys, there is false canisters all over the place. I actually confiscated this one off a traffic stop on Highway 41 and it had a bunch of cocaine in it. And it looked really nice, so I just took a picture of it. Looks like Mountain Dew, right? The only different thing that I noticed on this bottle is it's 24 ounces. You don't normally see that. Like Christina said, you just gotta look for things that look different, they don't fit. Pay attention to the details. You can actually twist the top lock. This is 25 grams of actual marijuana. That's not, I mean, it's enough as kids are going to be able to have a whole lot of it. So, this container is actually huge. So you could fit a lot inside one of these containers. See, the cool thing about my dog is he always wants to work. He always wants to play. So I could literally see 60 cars in a row and all he wants to do is so these dogs are an extremely effective tool. We have the city of Fond du Lac's got 2 canines right now. They're both trained in narcotics. They're dual purpose dogs, so they do bite people, they track all that fun stuff. Coda, our 90% of our time that we're focused on narcotics. That's all we do. We track people, and we also do what's called particle searching. So say somebody runs from a building, they throw a gun, or they just rob somebody, throw a gun, or they burglarize a building and they throw their burglarous tool, or hammer, or their wrench out into a field. I can give him a command, he'll go and find it and sit next to it. Pretty cool what you can train these dogs to do. They're fantastic. Coda actually won last week. He won an award for the track of the year. 1 minute. Okay. So yeah, they're fantastic. We'll be around if you guys want to pet him. Coda is extremely social. I got him from a kennel, and they specifically train their dogs from puppies to be social. Yes, they do bite people. Yes, they do have an off switch and an on switch. As long as I don't tell him to bite you, he will not bite you. He's very friendly, very social. If you guys love dogs, I'll be around for a while. If you want to pet them and let them lick your face or whatever, we'll be around just to hang out. But thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Rumor has it that there's a law enforcement lip sync challenge that's going through the interwebs, and I knew that I recognized Deputy Weisbecker, his dance moves. So that's nice. We were able to work in a little dancing with the show tonight. So very nice. That does conclude our presentation tonight. You are all invited, though, to stick around, come up, visit the room, talk with any of our presenters, ask any questions you'd like to all the wonderful vendors that were here tonight. A big thank you goes out to all of the vendors that set tables out in the hallway. They have tons of information, so please don't leave here tonight without taking full advantage of that. We'd also like to thank our coalition partners, and most importantly, all of you for coming out and spending some time with us. So on behalf of Drug Free Communities, have a great, safe night.